Ooh, Bill 4. Hey, Bo! Hey, Bo, Bill 4 just dropped.
Bill 4 what?
Interea? Yeah.
It dropped. You have it installed?
Yeah, you wanna play it?
Get out of that chair! Hey guys, it's your Bo the Doggo, and welcome back finally to Interea, part 4. Oh my god, it dropped just a few minutes ago. I was just sitting here and then suddenly I got an email from Patreon and it was like, hey, the new Interea update is out. Oh my god, I'm so excited. There's gonna be some new music from this artist. I don't remember his name right now. I forgot that. I'm sorry, I should have prepared better. But this guy, many of you have probably seen him on Twitter. He's putting out some good bangers. He's made a song for this build, so very excited. Haps has apparently made a lot of art as well, so I'm so excited. So what happened last time? We got to Lux, we met the Wolverine, the Kenyan Wolverine. Amicus fought with the old man, the Pugner champion. Amicus lost, he got very sad. But the old man decided to join us, or he would anyway, I think. But he's joining us for the trip to the other cities. After that, we went back to the place where we live, like the farm or whatever it was. It's not an hotel, but the place where we live. I think Amicus is planning to have a little quality time with us right now in the hot springs. So yeah, with no further ado, guys, enjoy. Amicus stops at the door of the villa, then leans in to kiss me, and we kiss for a long time with no prying eyes around to disturb us. The villa is surprisingly lavish. I'm not sure what I expected, but after seeing the somewhat barren streets of Lux, I assumed it would be less decked out than the palace in Adastra City. Wow, this is really nice! It is. Amicus sees as taken aback as I am. Haven't you been here before? This is where you stay when you're in Lux, right? Amicus seems embarrassed. Actually, I've never stayed here myself. This is my first visit to Lux as an emperor. My previous visits in my youth never lasted longer than a day. Cassius is likely familiar with the place though. I turn my attention back to the villa. It's decorated and furnished to an extent that's even more extravagant than the palace. Though, to be fair, the palace isn't that extravagant, and that was intentional. Its bare and utilitarian design is meant to appear at least somewhat approachable to the common wolf. We go about to settle in, and Amicus raids the pantry in the kitchen and returns with a bottle of wine and a smaller bottle of what I assume is Virdi. It's a drink made mostly of the juice of a cucumber-like fruit, and Amicus knows that it's my favorite drink on Adastra, though its pink hue tells me that it's a flavor I haven't tried before. We settle on our reclining couches, which I notice are made with gold trim and polished wood. Your grandfather Vitus, right? Amicus seems to perk up immediately. Oh yes, Vitus. You learned of him? I hold back a wince, forgetting that I hadn't told Amicus about how far I'd gotten in Adastra history quite yet. I quickly move on so it doesn't dwell on it. Just a little bit. I just remember that he ended up getting rid of all the expensive stuff owned by the family and gave it to the people or something. He did! About a century ago, the palace had far more decoration and murals. It was a very important step toward the imperial family's relationship with the people. Amicus swigs from his bottle, and I do the same from mine. I can tell that the pinkish color of the liquid is probably from flower petals, since the drink has a more distinct floral taste about it. Even though it makes me think of walking through a perfume cloud with my mouth open, the chilled drink is still refreshing. As long as that imagery isn't in my mind. Well, I guess I would have thought that might be the case with the villas too, especially a region as poor as Lux. They don't have much wealth here, right? Well, the mines and the factories are prosperous enough. The issue is how the wealth is distributed to the people. Unfortunately, the people of Lux seem intent on voting off the most extreme politicians, who then tend to be the most corrupt. It's a self-inflicted misery, unfortunately. I instinctively blanch at his reasoning, but I don't want to get into another argument. Amicus has seen my reaction well enough though. I should not have to tell you once again that you can speak freely with me, Bo. I know that, but lately I feel more and more like I don't know what I'm talking about. I know, but I need to remember that Ad Astra isn't Earth, and sometimes it feels like it just isn't my place. But it is! I want a human perspective. Well, just remember that it's only my perspective. Alright. And I think when you say that it's self-inflicted, it feels like you're just blaming them for the situation that really isn't their fault. Yes, I understand that. But what I said is mostly out of frustration. It's difficult to sway these people, and at times I'm at a loss for what to do with the Lux problem. Well, make sure you stop calling it the Lux problem first of all. I never say that out loud to anyone else, of course. But someone might hear you. We both know there can be ears anywhere. I suppose you're right, but that doesn't fix the actual issue. Have you tried building a better relationship with Lux? Of course, but like I said, the funds we send them end up in pockets that we cannot trace. Attempts to regulate or even withhold funds ends in riots. Attempts to purge qualified politicians from the ballots ends in riots. Really, any attempts to make Lux resemble a civilized Ad Astran city ends in riots that do not end until Ad Astra gives in to the demands. Tell me, what the hell am I supposed to do to make them understand that Ad Astra simply wants what is best for them? But despite his annoyance and growling tone, I know it's not directed at me. Another reason I don't feel qualified to judge or tell him what to do is because I know he spends most of his time thinking about things that I can only chime in on, which I imagine is a bit irritating, but he seems to be genuinely seeking my advice, so I try. From what I understand, a lot of the problem in Lux come from his isolation, right? I would say so, yes. Oh, and I think a few centuries back an emperor tried to calm the rebellious spirit of Luxians by importing large amounts of hard liquor into the city, which I can't imagine had a good effect on the people. I do not recall that policy. Did Com tell you that? I remember that I need to tell Amicus that I'm using Chemian records to get a better context for Ad Astran history. Remember it's misspelled? Just not right now, with all this other crap going on. I think so. Either way, maybe you can try to address those problems? How do you usually get from one city to another? Well, through flight, of course. Can a Luxian afford that? No, most cannot. Most travel is done by automated chariots. Though from Lux, I believe you must travel on foot out of the mountains first. I frown. Aren't the chariots really slow? Well, they're twice of that of walking speed, thus it would take about 2 weeks to travel from here to Ad Astra city, so not terrible. How do they transport all the raw materials from the mining, or the goods from the factories? Those are moved by foot and chariot to a major river, then placed on boats. Do people travel on the boats? No, the boats are mostly for transportation of goods and resources, and the river only connects to Tricelli. They refine our resources and distribute the goods to the other cities. What are you going on about anyway? I'm trying to figure out how people get around on Ad Astra. From what I can tell, the main problem here is how isolated it is. On Earth, if a state wants to unify its people, it connects its people. And that's usually done through roads, trains and aircraft. You know, the general public transport? It sounds like Ad Astra doesn't really have that. Yes, well, we already have the roads, and they've served us well for thousands of years. And they only serve slow chariots. I'm not sure how the parents work, or if maybe you can ask Chemia for help, but high-speed transportation for the general public would probably be my first step. Amicus stares at me, and I shake my head. Sorry, I don't know much about what's possible, so I probably sound crazy right now. Well, it's certainly not an easy or quick proposition, but it is something that can be looked into. I appreciate the idea, though one of the reasons that we never pursued a better connection with Lux is because its people do not seem to want one. Well, maybe that is because they feel so isolated, like they're not part of Ad Astra. Over time, that could change. I suppose that could be the case. I'll ask some of the others about it. Maybe we could ask Maggis, since he's coming with us now? Amicus shifts, looking a bit embarrassed at the mention of the other wolf, and I feel a bit bad bringing him up. Yes, that will likely be necessary. I'm tired of talking politics, and Amicus seems to just be tired, so I get up and join him on his couch, and he sets aside his wine to hold me close to him. I feel the hardness of his cape collapse against my head, and I help him pull the red fabric over his head, careful not to set aside his golden crown first. It's slightly bent out of shape, I assume from the fight, but I don't mention it as he pulls me back against his body. I begin to gently rub his chest and stomach, running my hands over his thick pecs and down his padded stomach, which I'm sure is still aching. We're both already falling asleep, so I give him a light version of my usual rundown. I listen to his breathing and notice his pants crotch bulging just slightly, but I can tell that he's too tired for any serious action right now. Thank you for speaking candidly with me, Bo. You always have fantastic insight. Thanks. You're doing a fantastic job as an emperor. Amycus looks at me in a way that tells me that I made him a bit emotional. I rub my head against his chest, and before long, we're both drifting off to sleep. Amycus dreams heavily that night, several different scenes flashing through his mind. One in which his father chides him for his loss against Maggis, another in which Virginia is berating him for failing to unify Adastra, and finally one where Bo stands in a large cavernous room filled with other humans. Amycus can tell that Bo is distressed, looking unsure, hesitant, and Amycus wants to help him, but is not able to speak because he isn't there. These dreams are typical, but the last one transitions into something that isn't a dream, something that Amycus is becoming more familiar with as the parents exert their influence more and more. And it's about Bo. Amycus starts awake, looking down to confirm that Bo is there with him, feeling immense relief when he does. Then he hears what awoke him. A knocking sound on the door. Amycus pauses, then whispers at the ceiling. "Come!" "Yes, Amycus." Com whispers back, leaving Amycus grateful that among the expensive decor, they also installed a PA system. "Who's at the door?" Amycus is careful to keep his voice low as Bo shifts around against his body. Though he's mostly adjusted to Adastran hours, Bo still sleeps a bit longer than the average wolf, and Amycus has assumed that it's because humans need it. "The Pharaoh's second son, Neferu, and the Chemian ambassador to Adastra, Brunis." Amycus feels slightly annoyed, then moderately annoyed as the knocking sounds again, and this time a bit louder, making Bo stir once more. Gently, Amycus removes himself from the couch, keeping the human propped up before slowly laying him back against the cushions. Deciding to forego his cape and crown for now, the wolf strides to the front door of the estate, pulling it open quickly. The rush of frigid air almost takes Amycus' breath away after spending so much time in a climate-controlled villa. Amycus can tell that something bad has happened just by looking at Neferu's face. Despite his initial annoyance, Amycus feels a prickle of worry that it could have something to do with the delegation. "What happened?" Neferu stays quiet, on the verge of pouting. Amycus has never seen the jackal sulk in such a way. It's Brunis who finally speaks to him when it's clear that Neferu isn't going to. "Well, we were just getting breakfast when we were, harassed, I guess." Amycus clenches his jaw tightly for just a second. "And?" "Well, they started to pelting Neferu here with, I don't know, fruit or vegetable or something." Amycus bites his tongue to hold back from cursing. "What about the curfew?" "Well, it came from the windows. We were back to our flat, but then some of them did start coming out and formed a crowd at the door, demanding we hand over Neferu." Amycus closes his eyes, leaning against the doorframe, easily able to picture the scene. "Drones came in and stunned most of them. Then we were told it'd be best for Neferu not to stay in the city." "Damn it!" Amycus squeezes his eyes shut, hoping that somehow word hasn't spread of the incident. "Don't worry yourself. They seemed satisfied enough when I was escorted from the city. There were no further issues from what I was able to tell." "Yeah, it was real isolated. Wasn't enough to get the big crowd going." Still, Amycus knows the optics are not good. Amycus turns his attention to Neferu, seeing that the jackal is trembling ever so slightly under his tensed up muscles. "Are you injured?" "No." "I mean, they nailed you pretty good on the head a few times, even if it was just a rotten fruit." "I am fine." Neferu's tone is flat but slightly dark, and Amycus can tell that the jackal would like to not be visible at the moment. The wolf knows the feeling quite well himself. "Alright, well, you are welcome to stay here. There's a spare room towards the back of the villa. What about you, Brunis?"
I'll probably be sharing the room with Neff, but I'll go back first to get our stuff.
Is that safe?
Bjarn is getting it, but I'll meet him halfway since he wants to know way more about what happened.
It's quite clear to Amicus that Brunis wants to give Neferu time alone to sulk. Well, alright. Let me know if any other issues arise and I shall deal with them.
Of course, Your Majesty.
Brunis bows as he backs away, muttering a "see ya later, Neff" as he does. Yes, see ya. Amicus stands before Neferu, the jackal stiff posture making even the wolf feel awkward. While there are many things about Neferu that irritates Amicus, he at least can admit that the keyman has a knack of making things not awkward. It's slightly unsettling. Amicus clears his throat and steps aside, indicating Neferu should enter.
So, do you wish to speak more on the matter?
No.
Well, the room is over there.
Amicus gestures at the doorway, visible from the villa entrance. Thank you. Apologies again for bringing complications
Never mind that. Go get settled in.
Why, of course, Your Majesty. Neferu's voice is slightly mocking in response to Amicus' more commanding tone. The return of Neferu's irritating, cheeky nature, brief as it may be, is enough to put Amicus at ease, that whatever happened, Neferu will get over it. Now he just have to worry about whether or not Lux will get over it.
Well, you'll have the place to yourself in the morning. Bo and I are going out.
Not to the city, I assume?
Of course not, and especially not after what happened. It's a private outing.
Enjoy yourselves then. Amicus watches the jackal go and letting out a long exhale of breath, which reflects his feeling of being deflated. Sapiens like Neferu, the ones that rarely admit to what they are feeling, to what they are thinking, are frustrating to the wolf. So much for Kemian bluntness. While he tolerates Neferu's behavior in Addae City, or at least is only mildly annoyed by it, it's a different issue out in these less civilized population centers. The wolf feels his insides turn with anxiety, wishing he'd prepare better for this mission. He rubs his stomach, still sore from yesterday's Pugno match. He'd have to call a meeting later today so that he can start keeping tabs on everyone. For now, he needs to take Bo to the hot springs like he promised. Let's go, hot springs, woo! I hold on to Amicus' paw as we make our way up the side of a mountain. And I thought I was underprepared yesterday. My sandals threaten to slip with every step, and after I stub my toe on one of the rocks, Amicus just picks me up. I don't mind at all, especially since there's no one around to see it.
How do you humans get around? Is Earth a perfect sphere with no geometrical features?
Well, I keep my arms wrapped firmly around Amicus' neck as he piggybacks me up the rugged and uneven climb. If I were dressed the right way with the right kind of shoes, this would be less of a problem.
Well, I hope you bring all of those things with you when you return.
I'll make a mental note of that. While the Kemian drone continues to keep me warm, Amicus' warmth is much more welcoming, and I press my face against the back of his neck. The wolf trudges along in the foggy silence for a while, and I'm just content to lose myself in the hypnotic bouncing. After a while, I start to recognize the sulfuric smell that reminds me of the baths back in the palace.
Shouldn't be long now. The hot springs are the main draw for tourism in this region. Most official baths are modeled after the composition of Luxian springs. It's healing for the body and the mind.
Well, I can't wait. I never really believed in the supposed ability of Addae mineral water to heal physical ailments, but I can't argue with the mental part. After Amicus told me about what happened to Neferu, I wanted to invite him to go with us, but I don't think that either of my canine friends would have wanted that. Soon enough, I start to see clouds of steam, and eventually, the pathway leads to a scenic outlook, one with a crystal clear spring right in the middle of it.
Oh, look! They even prepare our towels!
He gestures at the bucket with a towel beside it, and I even spot a few bottles stood up by the edge. There's a giddiness in the wolf's voice that I haven't heard in a good while, and I smile at Amicus' pup-like excitement. Amicus sets me down on the stony ground and begins to strip off his clothes. I do the same, though not quite at the same frantic pace. I've only removed my robe when Amicus does something else that he hasn't done in a while. Nice shot. I look up and see the wolf leap into the hot springs, seemingly without any care in the world. Again, it's nice to see, and to know that Ampyx is willing to act this way in front of me means a lot. I'm not the only one. But I'm also a bit worried, because I'm not sure if he knows if that's really a safe thing to do, especially in a natural spring. The moment unfreezes, a moment that lasted less than a second before he hits the water. Ampyx comes up quickly. Ah, Addae, that is hot! His voice is full of pleasure though. Ampyx reclines against the edge of the spring, laughing in such a relieved, satisfying way that I am eager to go in myself. Ampyx looks up at me.
So, are you coming to join me, Bo?
I saddle up to the edge of the spring, and Ampyx eyes my more cautious approach.
I recommend what do you call it? Cannonball technique? It's a bit hotter than the palace bath.
Okay. I finally set aside my worries, though I do look where I'm going to land to make sure that there's no rocks poking up. Then I jump. He's right about the heat, and for just a moment I panic for a bit, but within seconds, before I even surface, the burn settles into a pleasant warmth that instantly seeps into my muscles. When I come back up, the first thing I notice is how little the water stings in my eyes. Not only that, but it feels better. It might all be in my head, but there's a silky quality to the water, and I can immediately see why it is preferred over the artificial baths. Ampyx smiles at me.
Quite pleasant, isn't it?
Yeah, this is kind of amazing actually.
Nothing beats the real thing. God, I needed this.
After seeing the stiff, rigid way he carries himself all the time after becoming the Emperor, it's nice to see him relax. It makes me a little bit emotional, which catches me by surprise. I want Ampyx to be at ease all the time. To know that he's always stressed now makes me sad.
You alright, love?
Yeah, I'm good. This is great. Ampyx looks at me for a good long moment, then sighs.
I suppose I should admit that I came here for my own selfish reasons. I didn't even ask you if you wanted to come.
No, I'm happy to be here, Ampyx. Especially with you.
I don't want to say that you're hiding something from me, but you looked a bit upset right now. Is it Neferu?
That also catches me by surprise. Oh no! I thought about asking to invite him, but I didn't think either of you would care for it.
Alright.
Seeing Ampyx's tense demeanor returning, I decide just to tell him. Okay, so seeing you so relaxed and happy made me happy, but also kind of sad because you don't look that way very often anymore.
Ah, is that all? Don't worry about me, Ball. It's all part of the job. All things must come to an end, and that includes puphood. I'm happy to indulge in it once in a while though.
Are there any natural springs near Addae City?
No, at least not worth your time anyway.
Ampyx runs a paw through his fur.
I can really feel it nourishing my fur, and I'm sure it's the same for you as well.
I reach up to feel my hair, and it does feel softer, as if I just shampooed and conditioned it.
Huh. Like I said, it has healing properties, and well, some say it has an effect on libido as well.
I raise an eyebrow at Ampyx.
Uh-huh. Indeed.
For fuck's sake. I notice a dark length beginning to rise between Ampyx's legs. I try not to smile at how quickly he worked himself up. We weren't able to make love last night after all.
Do you know what would really relax me?
I frown, still playing along. Ampyx, if you are going to say sex, that is not a true statement at all.
Well, after the fact, I mean.
Well, I know rubbing that body of yours tends to get you relaxed. Maybe I can start with that. I mean, I didn't really get to do it last night. That immediately seems to get the wolf going.
Well, I don't want this to be one-sided.
Oh, it's not. I love rubbing down your body.
And why is that?
I can tell that I'm pushing my wolf's buttons, so I push further. Because I like feeling your big, strong body and imagine what you're about to do to me with it.
Well, why don't you come over here and show me how you like to feel me? Amycus leans back further, exposing his torso to me. Despite not having been in the mood just minutes ago, I definitely am now, and I slowly start pulling myself away from my end of the spring. I wonder how long you'll be able to restrain yourself this time. Let's find out.
Good morning.
We both jump and Amycus immediately covers up his not very prominent cock poking out of the water. I quickly lean back against the ledge, trying to make things look casual, though Amycus' reaction ruined any chance of that. Even I am a little bit surprised by how violently he covered himself up. I suppose we don't know much about this Magus guy, to be fair. Amycus tries to keep his heaving breath under control as Magus lowers himself into the smaller pool next to ours.
Good morning to you as well, Bo. Sorry if I startled you. I was just soaking up a spring further up the trail.
Either he didn't notice anything unusual, or he's pretending. I feel like it must be the latter. Oh no, just a little surprise is all.
Yes, we were told the springs would be private for the day.
I want to tell Amycus to be a little more polite, considering this man is one of the triumvirs of Lux, and he'll be traveling with us for the rest of the mission. I also understand why Amycus is as agitated as he is. Interrupted in the middle of a very private moment by the man who humiliated him yesterday.
Of course, I'll be taking my leave soon enough. I just wanted to make sure that the accommodations are to your liking.
He indicates the buckets, towels, and drinks.
That, and I thought I might take the opportunity to get to know the head of the delegation and his companion a little bit better.
Amycus takes a deep breath, possibly to make it clear to the other wolf that he's not interested in doing that at the moment. I finally speak up, hopefully distracting Magus from Amycus' rudeness. Yeah, it's great. Thank you, Magus.
Of course, Bo. I was not aware of your favorite drink, so I settled on Virdi, since I understand that not everyone enjoys their alcohol.
That's perfect, actually. Thanks again.
Yes, the drinks are fantastic. It was good to speak to you today, Magus, but my companion and I were discussing some private matters. Oh, of course. I'll be on my way, but I did want to ask. Are you quite alright after our bout yesterday? I know you assured us of your wellness, but after reflecting on it overnight, I wanted to make sure.
Amycus' face. Amycus stares straight ahead into the distance, as if not to acknowledge that Magus is touching him will allow him to pretend it's not happening.
As I said yesterday, I am perfectly fine. Thank you. Yes, I only ask due to the fact that I understand the issue of optics when it comes to being a high-ranked official, especially when you are in Lux.
This seems to finally break Amycus' dwindling patience.
You forget yourself, Magus. The position of Triumvirate is quite different from that of an Emperor. I say what I mean.
I feel a sinking feeling in my chest as Amycus drops all attempts at appearing proper. I completely understand Amycus' frustration right now, but Maggie's sincere tone is, as far as I can tell, completely genuine. I realize then that I need to alleviate the situation somehow. Amycus, you are forgetting yourself. I adopt a more chiding tone, wanted to keep the feel of the situation more lighthearted. Please excuse our Emperor, we were up very late last night. I feel that's the best explanation I can make up. While I am Amycus' companion, and far more than that, I still need to take care not to forget myself. I need to keep Amycus looking good, even while criticizing him. And I can do that by making myself seem frivolous, stupid even. Mainly, I just need to give Magus an excuse to be distracted from Amycus' slip in professionalism. I feel like I did mostly a good job, considering Amycus just continues to stare out at the place somewhere to my left and over my head.
Ah, yes. I do apologize for imposing myself upon you. I shouldn't have taken advantage of the situation in such a way.
Again, his sincerity is striking. And that's unusual. Maybe that's why Amycus is so cold. He doesn't fully trust his wolf. You didn't take advantage of the situation. It's just an inconvenient time, unfortunately. I glance at Amycus before continuing. Why don't we meet at the lunch? Or dinner?
There's a pause, as if we're both waiting for a confirmation from Amicus. How about dinner? Seeming to decide that my words are good enough, the Triumvir agrees.
I would be honored.
Maggis rises out of his spring, water splashing off his fur. Usually, when a furred creature gets wet, their overall stature becomes less impressive. Cassius and Alex comes to mind. But for Amicus, and for Maggis it turns out, the opposite is true, and I can see why his kicks had been so powerful. Amicus glances at him, then at me, so I quickly avert my gaze. I don't want to give Amicus any more reason to feel inadequate, even if it's not a good reason.
I'll meet you at your villa, is that alright? A 13th hour?
When there's no input from Amicus, I agree. That sounds good.
Alright, I'll see you then. Have a nice soak, your highness.
And with that, Maggis disappears around the trail, I assume to where his own towel is stashed. I love Amicus' face so much. It's silent for a few moments. Then I sigh. Amicus, that was terrible.
I know.
He's grumpy now, so I know that we aren't going to pick up where we left off. Well, at least you can try to salvage something over dinner.
Yeah.
He's quiet for a bit. Then Amicus huffs.
Thank you, Bo. I was not handling that well.
It happens to the best of us, but I think you should at least give this guy a chance.
Maybe. I just need more time after yesterday.
Of course. While the mood is ruined, I tell myself that it could have been worse.
Aw.
When we return to the villa, I can immediately tell that something is wrong. Bjarni is there, looking more upset than I've ever seen him. That's not saying much, but considering he's almost always default to a professional, cheerful demeanor, it's obvious that something is very wrong. I think I have a good idea what it might be, and as soon as Bjarni starts talking, I'm proved right.
Your Highness, it seems that the situation in the city has become more tense after the issue with the Chemians. Of course it has. There are rumors that a concerted protest is being planned around the 12th hour. What is the actual issue? Do they simply want Chemians gone, or...? The issue has become broader since then, while the initial complaints center around the Chemians supposedly turning their noses up at Luxian culture. Of course. Now it's more about why you, the Emperor, would bring them along. Of course.
It's quiet for a moment. Is there something we can do to appease them? Bjarni looks over at me, then sighs as he puts away his portal.
It's difficult to say. Once Luxian sets their mind to something, especially something that makes them upset, it's hard to dissuade them.
What if Neferu or Brunus apologize? Not that they should apologize for anything, but maybe that's enough to calm the people?
No, that will make them more upset. Chemians come off as condescending when they're apologizing.
I know that's likely due to the wolf's inferiority complex, but I don't say that out loud, of course. Are Neferu and Brunus here? I look around and notice that the door to the spare bedroom is still closed.
Yes, though Brunus wanted a private moment with Neferu.
I look at the closed door, feeling incredibly sorry for the jackal at the moment. I wonder if Neferu will even be up for the trip to Lupus tomorrow. That will be even more difficult for the two of us, though in a different way.
I regret to say it, but it might be best to simply leave within a few hours.
My heart sinks in my stomach at hearing that. Amicus seems to have the same feeling.
No, I cannot leave this city worse than it was when I arrived. That will mean absolute failure on Rasa's part. I must make a speech or something. I agree, but I'm not sure what else can be done. The longer we stay here, the more time the city has to fester in its anger. But I must!
Based on my teachings, I know that more than a few emperors have lost their lives in this city. While the last time was at least a few thousand years ago, the city hasn't changed much since then, and I feel a great deal of worry for my wolf. He's right, Amicus. If this city can get as bad as you say, it could be dangerous for you to try to calm them. I also worry that his skills in rhetorics isn't good enough for this situation. He is good, but not as good as...
Amicus! What the hell? I'm absent for less than a single day, and the city is ready for a riot?
He barges in without any of us hearing it. Cass, this is not the time.
Now is the time, Amicus! Lux will tear itself apart over this!
What? Over perceived insult from the chemias that likely didn't happen in the first place?
No, Amicus, over rumors. What actually happened doesn't matter. What does matter is that they're now saying that Neferu spat in the food they offered him.
Gods. Amicus takes a deep breath. Well, I suppose I should prepare myself to give some sort of speech.
Are you serious, Amicus?
Of course.
You idiot.
Shut the hell up, Cass! You don't understand!
I understand far more about this city than you ever will!
Cassie's screeching voice reverberates around the villa in the most grating way possible, and I see Amicus lower his ears in response. Now Cassie takes a deep breath.
They will kill you if you set your foot in the amphitheater alone.
There are drones that will protect him. Bjarni chimes in from the sidelines in his usual cheerful way.
Oh yes, and that will lead to such a rebellion that the city will once again declare itself an independent city-state. Good luck trying to repair any of that during your rule, Amicus.
Amicus finally seems to relent. Alright, do you have anything to propose yourself, Cassius? Cassius goes quiet for a moment, seeming to gather his thoughts. I can tell what he says next takes a good deal of effort on his part. Then he sighs a bit.
I suppose you could say that my performance yesterday was not adequate.
He pauses, as if waiting for Amicus to say something, though the other wolf remains silent.
Therefore, you might say that at least a small part of this is my fault.
Another pause, but Amicus just waits.
A very small part, but a part nonetheless, and therefore I shall give another speech.
Finally, Amicus shows a surprise at what Cassius just said.
And the people shall be allowed to actually attend this speech. None of this curfew nonsense. This is part of the reason why they are so upset.
Are you sure? I don't think I could let you...
Oh, stop it, Amicus. I know what I'm doing. I've given speeches in Lux at least a half dozen times, so yes, I do.
Amicus eyes Cassius carefully, as if unsure of the other wolf's intentions.
Keep in mind that if I want this mission to succeed anywhere, it is here in Lux. I would not be able to bring myself to leave this city the way it is now. I would at least like them to have a little hope for the future, as that is all that we can offer them at the moment.
Maybe we can mention that infrastructure project we were talking about last night, Amicus? Possibly. It might be a bit early for that though.
What are you on about?
Well, we discussed tentative plans to better connect Lux to Adastra City, possibly by using Chemian tech, but I don't think... Cassius seems to be thinking deeply, much to my surprise.
Actually, that gives me an idea. Where's the jackal?
He's here in the villa. Why?
Summon him, but it involves bringing him and you along.
Cassius looks directly at me. To be continued. No! They stopped it. No! And that's all for this episode. Fuck yeah. This was very good part. I love this. And it was so cool. I love that we finally got to see at least a scene from Amicus' perspective where we followed him and talked to Neferu. So Howley, if you're watching this, or at least wanting to check my thoughts, do more of that. That was great. I really liked that. And the humor was so good. A little bit slow start with all the politic talk, but it's good that it kind of turned around and had a point for it being there. So it didn't really waste any time in this episode, I think. Everything that talked about got used in a way, I think. So everything here was here for a purpose. There was no fluffing, really. So I liked it a lot. After this, I'm going to continue record my other big series I'm working on right now. This will probably be released before that thing. But I'm working on something else in the meantime. But this, and I was supposed to record another episode of that thing. But then this released today and I was like, I need to record this now. So finally, it feels so good being caught up with the series. I love it. And this is so fun. And yeah, this was amazing. I'm looking forward for next build in 6 months or something. But you shouldn't rush art. Anyhow, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, leave a comment what you thought, what do you think will happen in the next episode, and all that. Very excited for the next one. So yeah, I love you guys. Take care and stay awesome. And remember that you are loved and appreciated, and that you should be proud of who you are. Because I want to see you in the next episode. Bye!
Build for what? Interea? It dropped. You have it installed? Get out of that chair!